Is Jasmy at the price of $1 realistic? I think so. And even though that's not financial advice, in today's video, I'm going to be explaining the reasons why I think that Jasmy could reach the price of $1 during the peak of this bull run. And a major reason why I think so, I think it's going to come down to the fact that Jasmy, it's in the right place in the right time. What do I mean by that? Because when I take a look at Jasmy, it's a fundamentally amazing project that's focused on the right market. It has an amazing team. It's well regulated, and it's focused on a market that's still relatively in its infancy. Because as we all know, Jasmy, it's focused on data storage. It's focused on decentralizing data storage, quite essentially. Jasmy, dubs itself as being focused on data democracy, but that's just a very fancy way of saying how it's focused on decentralizing data storage. And here's the thing. The data storage market, it still has a lot of room to grow. But as of right now, many projects, at least good ones, there's not that many that are focused on decentralizing data storage. For instance, right, we take a look at Filecoin, we take a look at SiaCoin, we take a look at, Arweave, storage, it's spelled storage, but it's pronounced storage. But yeah, besides that point, as of right now, there are several projects that are decent, but other than that, the competition, it begins to fall apart, much like Snoop Dogg's hairline, which is all the way back here, falls off a cliff. But yeah, besides that point, I think this right here is going to work to the benefit of Jasmy, because if we take a look back in history, right, what were the enterprises that usually succeeded? It's the ones that entered early, the ones that entered the space at the right time. I mean, for instance, we take a look at Mark Cuban with broadcast.com. I mean, take a look at that, right? If Mark Cuban launched, broadcast.com right now, or previously known as AudioNet, would it have been successful? I think not, right? It launched at the perfect time, right before the dot-com bubble. It was acquired for over $5 billion by Yahoo. Perfect timing. That right there truly showcases how timing is everything. Usually the ones that enter early are the ones that are successful. Much like Amazon, launched back in the 90s, it's wildly successful today. And Jasmy, I think it's somewhat emulating that. You got to think about this, right? The data storage market size is predicted to be worth nearly $800 billion by 2030. That's just 6 years away at this point. It's not that far away. But again, right, in many of them, they're not focused on decentralizing data storage, when it comes to the projects. So Jasmy, man, when the wave finally comes in, right, when there's, large-scale institutional adoption for decentralized data storage solutions, at that point, Jasmy is just going to go along with the ride. In my opinion, it's much better anticipating a trend as opposed to chasing a trend. FOMOing into, chasing a trend, usually things don't end up too well, right? Jasmy, they're placing themselves in such a prime position. And here's the thing. Decentralizing data storage, it's not just some sort of random gimmicky thing, because as of right now, a lot of, data storage solutions, they're highly centralized, which in my opinion is actually not such a good thing, because usually there's a single point of failure, and also it's usually controlled by a single entity. And of course, the drawbacks when it comes to this is obvious, right? There's just not much data freedom when it comes to that. But when decentralization steps in, right, these issues, they're gone. That's how amazing it is. But here's the thing. You got to take into consideration how, adopting decentralized data storage solutions for enterprises, it's not just going to happen overnight. It's going to take some time, because these enterprises, in most cases, they're worth many billions of dollars. And, they're not just going to switch the way they do their business, quite essentially, and just, based off of a trend or based off of, people saying, hey, it's a good thing, let's do it, right? It's going to take some time. They're going to do their research. And in my opinion, it just takes a couple to really get it started. Because once a couple large-scale institutions start adopting, for example, something like Jasmy, then it's going to create this domino effect, right? It's going to be in a point where others are going to say, hey, wow, this enterprise is doing this, let's follow them. Again, right, it's going to create this snowball/domino effect. And it's just a matter of time, in my opinion, because there's too many benefits when it comes to decentralization for data storage. So I think that the benefits are too great for it to be ignored for a long time, at least. And that's why, again, I think it's just a matter of time. Jasmy, I think they understand where all the potential is at. And here's the thing. Jasmy, its team, it's pretty much A+. When you take a look at a lot of crypto projects out there, right, their team, it just looks like they came out of, straight out of, El Pollo Loco or Chipotle. It looks very embarrassing, in my opinion. I mean, are they equipped to handle, a restaurant chain? I think so. But to handle, let's say, a project that could be worth billions of dollars one day, right? I don't know about that, right? But when it comes to Jasmy, they have a team that's, well experienced in handling, quite essentially, large volumes of capital. Because when you take a look at many members of the Jasmy team, they are individuals who have work experience, in amazing, fantastic enterprises, right? That are worth many billions of dollars. For instance, we take a look at Kazumasa Sato, who's the former CEO of Sony Style Japan. He's part of the Jasmy team. And again, right, Sony worth many billions of dollars. So he's no joke. He has amazing work experience. We also take a look at Kunitake Endo, who's the representative director of Jasmy. He's also nothing to be laughed about because he's the former president and COO of the Sony Corporation. So again, he has amazing work experience. You also take a look at, for instance, Hiroshi Harada, who's a CFO. He used to work at KPMG, and as we all know, KPMG is one of the four enterprises that quite essentially makes up the big four accounting firms. So when it comes to, he has amazing experience as well. So when you take a look at Jasmy, any way I view it, from top to bottom, it's fundamentally fantastic. Focus on the right market. They're entering early, and the team is A+. And let's not forget, they are also legally compliant as a cryptocurrency in the country of Japan, which I think, again, is that cherry on top, that Salt Bay, if you know what I mean. Being able to achieve that, man, that truly speaks volumes as to just how amazing Jasmy is. It's well regulated, quite essentially speaking. And personally for me, what is my buying strategy when it comes to Jasmy? And that is dollar cost averaging. I've been dollar cost averaging into Jasmy for over a year at this point. So I've been dollar cost averaging for quite some time. And what I mean by that is anytime I earn income, I set aside some for Jasmy. So, I earn income. It doesn't matter what happens to the price of Jasmy, right? Sometimes people, they're hyper-focused on what happens to the price, on an hourly basis, on a weekly basis. But personally for me, my strategy is just acquiring, I hold, and I'm just waiting for the peak of the bull run. That's it, right? I'm not a day trader. I'm not a swing trader. I don't use leverage. I'm not doing any of that type of stuff whatsoever because a lot of my friends that I know, they day trade, they use leverage, and most often than not, it ends up going up in flames. It ends up being a disaster, quite essentially, because a lot of these people, right, they're using, let's say, 50x leverage, in some cases, very scarily, even 100x leverage, which is insane. But yeah, some people do that, right? But let's say they're shorting Jasmy, and then let's say the price of Jasmy pumps. What happens? They get liquidated, they get stop loss, they get angry, and they try to make another trade, right? They say, oh, wow, it's pumping. Okay, let's long Jasmy, right? And then what happens? If, let's say, there's a pullback, they get liquidated again. And then if this keeps happening, they enter this vicious cycle where they keep losing and they run out of funds. And what happens, right? They think that cryptos are a joke. But in my opinion, it doesn't have to be that way, which is why, again, I dollar cost average. If I dollar cost average, right? Let's say my portfolio is down. I'm not getting liquidated, right? I'm just holding quite essentially. So when the price does pump up again, I can still recoup my losses, right? And yeah, even if that isn't the case, if let's say the price does stay down, then I'm just going to dollar cost average even more and just wait for the price to truly take off. So by dollar cost averaging, I think that I'm protecting myself from a lot of potentially unnecessary risk that, I don't need to incur, in my opinion, which is why, again, by dollar cost averaging, I'm just kind of removing what happens to the price in the short to medium term. And I just focus more so on quite essentially on the long term when there's the peak of the bull run. Because keep in mind, when usually, historically speaking, we take a look at cryptocurrencies, what usually pumps first, right? It's usually Bitcoin and these bigger altcoins. And we're seeing it right now. We're seeing, Bitcoin all-time high price. We're seeing Ethereum popping off. We're seeing bigger projects, much like Solana. And again, this is historically accurate because this is usually what happens. But eventually, these people, they're going to take profits, at least the smart ones, right? I can't speak, I can't say everyone's doing that, but at least the smart ones. And eventually, they're going to get bored. They want gains again. And what's going to happen? They're going to flow their earnings, right? Flow their capital quite essentially into smaller projects, much like Jasmy, relatively speaking, of course, smaller project, right? And when that truly kicks in, right? When there's, all these investors flowing their capital into altcoins, man, that's usually when the altcoin season truly kicks in. But it's not going to happen, in the next 2 hours, right? In the next 10 hours. That's not the case, right? Even though that'd be great for me, but it's going to take some time for people to do that. So in my opinion, as of right now, I'm going to stay patient. I'm going to keep dollar cost averaging into Jasmy because I think it's fundamentally fantastic. Again, right, I think it ticks all the boxes. Fundamentals A+, amazing team, focus on the right market, entering early. And as of right now, the price of Jasmy, in my opinion, is still relatively low in a sense that even though it did have a price bump, I think it's still very undervalued, especially when I consider just how fantastic it is. And of course, I don't think Jasmy is just going to have a straight shot upwards because, Usually when cryptocurrencies pump, it's usually a pump, a pullback, a pump, and a pullback. But, these pullbacks, they're not going to concern me because, again, I'm just dollar cost averaging because I believe in the future of Jasmy. When people are overly concerned about what happens to the price in the short term, that, in my opinion, truly showcases how they don't really understand the fundamentals of the project, right? Because if they did, they wouldn't be doing that, in my opinion. Which is why, again, I'm focused on fundamentals. I'm focused on the future of Jasmy, and I think it's so bright. I think that during the peak of this bull run, I wouldn't be surprised if Jasmy did go to the price of $1 and just shock the world. I think it's that amazing. And of course, that's not financial advice, but I'm extremely bullish on Jasmy. Make sure to subscribe if you gained value from this video. I'd greatly appreciate it. And also on top of that, make sure to check out this very fantastic video. I think you all would really love it. It's been Lee the Captain, and I'll catch you all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.